Welcome to PodCapers, the official podcast for a place to hang your cape. And this week, we're full of pride! Well, some people are full of pride, I'm full of shame, because I'm English and that's our main emotion. We're talking about the best LGBT superheroes! Cue the music! Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to PodCapers, the official podcast for a place to hang your cape. My name's Alex Mirabal, and this is a show where I talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and I'm joined each week by a very special different guest. I don't know why I said nerd like Noid.
Yeah, you said Noid. We're talking about pizza this week, motherfuckers.
Although, no, I was thinking more like, hey, I'm from, like, New York. I mean, he's a bit of a, this guy I know, he's a bit of a Noid, you know?
Oh,
Noid.
God.
Yeah, we're just going to keep it like that. That's the intro, Capers. Live with it. And I am joined this week, as you can probably guess, by Alex Mirabal. Say hello, Alex.
Hi.
Right. Now, this week, with something that I've actually wanted to do for quite a while. I actually wanted to do this episode last year. Here's the problem, though. I forgot when Pride Month was. But this year I remembered. And considering we're starting off the month of June with an episode all about the best, as in top 10, LGBTQIA plus superheroes we can think of. Alex, I'm excited about this.
Oh, I'm super excited. I have had my personal list for a very long time.
I have not had a personal list for a long time, but then again, I have had a lot of LGBT characters that have influenced me and who I've been fans of for a long, long time. And considering we're both going to come up with 10 characters each, I think we better just get started. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Right, so here we're going to go. How this is going to go is I'm going to say my pick for whatever number we're on, 10, 9, 8, etc., etc. You know how numbers work. And then, once I've done with that, and I've explained a bit about the character, and say why I like the character so much, or something interesting about it, you'll do your one for that number, and we'll go on from there. And by the end of it, we'll have 20 awesome characters to talk about. Yay!
Yay!
So, let's get started with number 10! Now, number 10 is a fairly obvious one, but I think it's important to talk about this character, even though I don't know that much about the character, and the character actually isn't that well liked outside of this one aspect. It's very important because it was such a huge milestone. I'm, of course, talking about Northstar.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
Oh, trust me, we're going all sorts of places with this, but I want to talk about Northstar. Northstar is a French-Canadian superhero, part of the X-Men, part of Alpha Flight, and not very well liked. He's had a bit of notoriety over the years due to his kind of weird sister, him getting killed by Wolverine and resurrected. Because it happens. It's comics. Everyone gets died and resurrected. We're not surprised by that anymore. But it was a massive milestone when a few years ago, Northstar got married in the comics to a man, and as far as I'm aware, it's the first gay wedding in comics history.
Yeah, I think so. I seem to remember that being all over the place.
Yeah, and of course that is incredibly important. It would have been a bit nice if it happened to a slightly more A-list superhero, but you know what? Who am I to deny a French-Canadian their happiness? Not me, certainly not. And it was really great, and it paved. And since then, we've had all more LGBT relationships and weddings happening in comics, both in Marvel and DC and beyond. So it paved the way. You know, it started this trend, this very positive trend that we're seeing more and more of. And even though he's not that major a character, his influence has to be mentioned. So that's why I'm starting it off with Northstar.
Yeah, there you go. A good starting point.
Absolutely. Don't think he's a bit of crap. But here's the problem. See, on the one hand, Canadian. Nice. On the other hand, French. Must hate. Because it's easy to laugh at the French. That's the thing, though. Do we laugh at the French Canadians for being French, or do we not laugh at them for being Canadian? Because I can't laugh at Canadian people. It's bad enough
I'm
being America's
American.
hat.
It's in my blood to laugh at Canadian people.
We're going to move on to your pick for number 10.
He's the first in live action to really do this. It's Deadpool.
Oh, yeah! I keep on forgetting that Deadpool is part of the LGBT
Yeah,
community.
he's pan. And I do this mostly because, like, exposure. Like, obviously, a lot of people know who Deadpool is. He's probably one of the most the most major queer characters in comics, and I mostly only put him at 10 because he's a little bit predatory.
Yeah.
But he's like, I think like he's super important to the community, and he's an absolute gem sometimes. But
A lovely murderous gem.
yeah, and we said anti-heroes were okay, so he kind
Yeah, before the episode, we did have we had a ruling. We decided anti-heroes are allowed.
yeah, and he's kind of the epitome of that. And so I enjoy him. I like the movies a lot. That's pretty much my number one exposure to him. That, and I watched a bunch of clips from the video game. And I enjoy him. He is very predatory to a lot of men, which is a little bit skeevy, especially in the movie.
I mean, he's always been skeevy. I mean, sometimes he can have... I mean, I've watched the movies, obviously, and I love the movies, but my main influence for Deadpool was some of the earlier comics, not right at the very beginning with Rob Liefeld, when it was popping up in cable and stuff, but a bit later on with, like, when he started getting his own miniseries and the We Don't Need Another Hero arc, because that's when he started having romantic feelings and a potential for a possible relationship with Siren, the daughter of Banshee. And here's the thing, though, that was also a bit skeevy because sometimes, he would spy on her from outside her bedroom window in a tree.
Fun.
Yeah.
Real fun.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I keep forgetting about it because I haven't seen that much focus being put on it, but maybe it's just a recent thing in the comics.
I mean, it definitely was, I feel like, confirmed fairly recently. A lot of these characters were. I feel like a lot of characters, there's a trend recently of creators being like, yeah, this person's gay, so they've always been gay. And
Yeah.
like, 60 years since they've been created, and no one has said that before.
Yeah, because the way it was, it's like, no, these characters aren't gay. Being gay is sissy, and they're men, and they're women. And then the trend was, well, maybe, what do you think? Oh, no, he's not gay. Not really. Wink, wink, nudge, 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 nudge. And neither of those two were particularly good because the first one was just out and out bigoted, and the second one was just like trying to have it both ways, and it was really cheap and sort of promoting this closeted ideology. And now it's like,
Yeah, definitely. I'm enjoying this new trend. Like, it's happening a lot, and like adaptations are taking different characters that weren't gay and making them gay, and it's fantastic. I have a lot of other characters that could be included in this conversation, but they're all higher on the list.
Yeah, and we will continue that conversation as we go on, because I've actually got some stuff to say that outside the superhero genre, but we'll get on to that. Let's move on to number 9! And my pick for number 9, continuing on with the Deadpool trend, actually, Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Oh, yay! I love her.
I mean, she is fucking amazing. Here's the thing. In the comics, Negasonic Teenage Warhead is a bit different. She only shows up twice as far as I know. The first time was on the island of Genosha, right before it went kablooey. Genosha being the island of mutants, that was his own sovereign mutant nation that went, again, kablooey. And then she later turns up as sort of illusion attacking the X-Men in Joss Whedon's run on Astonishing X-Men, which is amazing. No matter how you feel about Joss Whedon right now, Joss Whedon's run on X-Men, I believe the artist was John Cassidy, if I remember correctly. It's absolutely amazing. It really expands the characters of Wolverine, Shadowcat, Cyclops, Emma Frost. Hank McCoy. It's really, really good. And she only appeared twice as far as I'm aware. I'm sure she's popped up in the comics since then, because, since the movies come out. But here's the thing, though. It was a joke in those comics that the name she chose for herself was Negasonic Teenage Warhead, because it's such a ridiculous name. And obviously the good people over at the Deadpool studio were just like, hey, you know what? That's a cool name. Let's put that in our movie. And wouldn't you know it, we got an awesome character out of it.
Yeah, I love her. I love Kyo. I love both of them together. They are so cute, and she is everything I wish to be, and that was my wannabe aesthetic as a teenager, was her.
I mean, yeah, she's fucking amazing. The reason why she's so low down on this list is because her lesbian identity, as it were, that's assuming she's in fact lesbian, she might be something else, but she's definitely attracted to women, isn't quite at the forefront of her identity, of her on-screen character. It's definitely there, and it's definitely clear, which I love, but it's not the main thing about her. The main thing about her is that she's a snarky superhero who has basically trails off to Deadpool picking up after his mess, which I love.
Right.
But it's so cool, because, like, they didn't have to include that in there.
No, they didn't.
And they just did, and it was just there, and just like, fine, cool. And there are plenty of times where when a person being gay in a story has to have a big impact on the story and their personal growth and character development, and sometimes it doesn't. It just has to be something about their life, because for a lot of gay people, it's just something about their life.
Right.
You know, it's different for me, obviously, but I don't consider my heterosexuality a big part of my identity. Then again, it's not the same again because I've never had to consider it part of my identity, but it's kind of a similar outlook, as it were.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the only thing I'm sure of in this life is that I'm bisexual. That is the only thing that I know. That is like, and it is a big part, but it's not my entire person, which I think is something that is hard to balance for straight writers. They don't really know how to balance sexuality and just being a person outside of that.
Because there are so many stories out there about the gay community that need to be told. But my personal philosophy is, as well as that, you also need to include characters that are part of the LGBTQIA plus community, where that is just incidental to that character. It's not a big deal. I'm not talking just about minor background characters either. I'm talking about major characters. I mean, I don't think, I may be wrong with this, but I don't think we've gotten like a major Hollywood action star that just so happens to be gay outside of Deadpool.
Well, I mean, there was Atomic Blonde, but I feel like that's not like a series. That was just one movie, and that was Charlize, and she can do whatever she wants. So
damn right she can. I'm not going to tell Charlize Theron what to do. I'm not going to do that. She knows what she's doing. She's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we move on to your one now. Your pick for number 9.
So mine's a weird one. I think needs to be acknowledged because they're probably the only character in comics that has this identity that I'm aware of, and it's Danny the Street from Doom Patrol.
Oh, Danny the Street.
Danny the Street is genderqueer as of the new TV show, and previously Danny was referred to as cross-dressing, which is hard to think of because street.
Well, they have crossworks on streets, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think the idea, and that's something that's apparent in the show, but like they explicitly say that Danny's pronouns are they. Danny has a non-binary flag, like where like a flagpole in the middle of their street that's a non-binary flag, and they're just amazing. They're so kind, and I know in the comic I think they have a daughter, and I wish that daughter is included in season 2. And hopefully I want everything from Doom Patrol to be in, because they do fucking great job, but that's another time I'm going to be writing a review of that. But
oh yeah. I've been catching up on Doom Patrol recently. I recently watched the Danny the Street episode, and I loved it from start to finish.
The scene of and I will talk about Larry later, but the scene of Larry singing Kelly Clarkson with Morally Corrupt, that invented gay rights.
In a tuxedo!
It's so good. And it doesn't
karaoke.
like it's a beautiful, beautiful scene. I would recommend anyone looking it up. Just like look up "Negative Man Sings Karaoke," and it made me care. I don't give a shit about that song. That song is not a great song. It's a Kelly Clarkson song. She's like a straight woman singing about how we're misfits. Blah. I hate that shit. But like they totally made it their own, and it's fantastic. And when it's sung by a drag queen and a gay man, it is fantastic. And the only way that happened was because Danny exists. And I appreciate Danny.
I mean, that's like Lady Gaga's wet dream right there.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
And and we know this, and I don't want to like exactly say the context of this, but we know that Danny can have orgasms. So
I mean, the thing is, you think the weirdest thing about Danny would be that they're a sentient
teleporting
piece
street
of infrastructure.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, that's right. That is the weirdest thing about them.
Yeah.
The fact that they're genderqueer, actually, when you get right down to it, is not the strangest thing. If anything, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, especially like Danny is
not that it has to make sense, but anyway.
Danny is the haven for a lot of people that kind of get rejected by, normal American society. Like they literally are the Dannysons are the antithesis of the Bureau of Normalcy. And it's it's a like that whole episode, and we do see more of Danny, which is great, is just an entire like a metaphor for the fact that like the US government did send, people in to destroy these communities for, Black people and queer people. And it's a beautiful episode, Danny Patrol, and I love them with all of my heart. And there's a joke later on.
You wouldn't think you could love a sentient street.
Yeah.
So much.
There's
it's
no
amazing.
actor attached to this character. It's just like the signs.
And yet they have such a personality.
Yeah, like all the signs all over the street have will change depending on what Danny is trying to say, and they all have this font. And it's the exact font you expect for Danny. It's like you can tell everything you need to know about Danny just from the font that they use.
Actually, take it back. Do you know what this is? This isn't Lady Gaga's wet dream. This is John Waters' wet dream.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Good morning, Danny the Street.
Yeah. I mean, that show is essentially taking everything that Grant Morrison did and built upon, and giving it modern day equivalencies. Like the fact, Danny was considered cross-dressing and not actually queer. They are genderqueer, explicitly, because there's a word for it now, or there's always been a word for it. It's just it's more in the mainstream, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, because I think so many people out there don't want to be labeled, and that I totally get. But having a label and having an actual definition of something helps establish it in our reality more, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's
I think that Danny is a good step for I would like to have an actor, a genderqueer actor actually playing a genderqueer character at some point. But I mean, obviously that's gonna be a hot sec. But Danny, I think, is a good step forward, and we don't need
played by that person from John Wick 3.
Oh yeah. That person, I think, a USA show. I think they're in Suits or something, or Burn Notice.
They're
I don't know.
Billions.
They're in one of
Billions.
Billions. That's what it is. It's
that show with Paul Giamatti and the guy from Homeland that no one watches.
Yeah. But I mean, again, step forward. That's major. That person is non-binary and they get to play a non-binary character. Is fantastic, and I want to see more of that. I want to see people outside of the binary play more characters on television, and it usually starts with television.
Because a lot of times we do get characters like that, but they're not necessarily played by the people who's part of that community. A good example is, do you ever watch that show Trial and Error?
Yes.
Because John Lithgow played a character in that who is sexually fluid.
Yeah. I remember that. I watched some of the first season because my dad and my brother absolutely adored it, and it was on like, because I don't have network television at school. It's hard for me to like watch.
Illegally download
No,
it!
I know. I need to like watch the full thing because it's so funny. It has the guy like the lead guy is who played Harvey Dent in like one episode of Gotham. So he likes playing lawyers. But
I mean, I love that show because it's one of the funniest shows that's seen come out of America in a long time. But I did find it interesting that they so blatantly showed a character that they explicitly stated was sexually fluid.
I think his daughter is too. They like there's a joke that he says like you have no idea what it's like to be, you know, bisexual and a murder suspect, and his daughter walks by with a drink and she's like, yeah, no, I do.
We can talk about that show all day. We've talked about this long enough. I think we're going to move on now to number 8. And, I mean, I debated what to put on this slot. I really didn't know. But I decided just to go out there. Let's just go out there and see what there is to find in the great grand cosmos. I come up with something that, I mean, oh god, it's so weird and yet it's so beautiful. By the way, we just talked about a sentient street. I am going to talk about Phyla-Vell, also known as Quasar.
Oh.
Now, there have been many Quasars over the years. There was a guy Quasar for a long while, and Quasar is a superhero in the cosmos, fighting alongside like Guardians of the Galaxy and people like that, who has the quantum bands, which means he can do space shit. Then he died, and this other person, Phyla-Vell, who, I'll be honest, Capers, outside of what I'm about to tell you, I know nothing about, got the bands. She became the new Quasar. I believe she was featured in an episode of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes as part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. She's really awesome in that. The reason why I bring up her, and of all the characters I could possibly bring up, is because she was in a relationship with former Avenger and also space superhero, kind of a downer person, but still pretty cool, Moondragon. Are you familiar with Moondragon?
No. That is a hell of a name.
Moondragon is a bold female superhero who is in love with Phyla-Vell, and the only reason I know about either of these characters is because I read a long time ago the Annihilation series. Basically, Annihilus from the Negative Zone decided, you know what, conquer the universe, that's what I'm going to do. And so he set out, Guardians of the Galaxy got involved, Nova got involved, lots of people got involved. It's a big old thing, and during this series of events, Phyla-Vell, Quasar, and Moondragon were in a relationship, and Moondragon, for reasons which I cannot remember, transformed into a dragon.
Amazing.
I am
so into that.
Here's the thing, though. She and Quasar, the relationship kept going.
I'm down for that.
Yes. So we have a lady being in a romantic relationship with a lady dragon.
That is the best thing ever.
It is the best thing ever. I can't remember how it ended. A lot of this, Capers, I'm going off my own memory. This episode, literally, I just remembered a couple of days ago, like, oh, wait, it's Pride Month, I ought to do this. I'm just going to check out to see how that relationship ended. Well, considering the fact that it's Marvel and, you know, all of their relationships stand a test of time and no one, you know, breaks up or dies or gets their memories wiped away or, you know, gets abused by their partner or sells their marriage to the devil. That never happens.
Or almost gets married and then doesn't and then someone else gets married.
Oh, yeah. Moondragon gets killed by Ultron.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, but then she comes back to life.
As a dragon?
I can't quite tell.
Eh.
I don't know. I'm just literally looking at something right now, Capers. Yeah, I can't tell if she comes with a dragon, but she definitely comes back. Because death is not permanent in fucking comics, and I hate that. I hate it.
Yeah. The only consistencies were like Uncle Ben and Bucky, and then they brought back Bucky. So it's like, well, not even that one.
Jeez, and they have brought Uncle Ben back, albeit briefly, a couple of times. Oh, okay, no, it actually was a really sweet thing. Sidetrack. So there was this during, I think it was it was definitely during my favorite run of Spider-Man with John Romita Jr. writing it. I think it was J. Michael Straczynski was writing. Don't quote me on that. There was a big thing where a bunch of the mindless ones from the X dimension, these magical dimension zombie creatures, started attacking Times Square, and Spider-Man and the X-Men and the Avengers and Fantastic Four all joined in to try and stop them, but it wasn't working. And then Reed Richards or someone tried to use like a special science do-gidget, and it brought back Dormammu. Oh no! And that meant that basically the universe ended, but Doctor Strange went in the last second and said, okay, Spider-Man, I am saving you from death. Hi there. We've got a bit of a problem here. You see, Dormammu's back, and that means that we're all fucked. But I'm going to send you back through time to try and stop this from happening. Also, just so, you know, the world doesn't end. You know, just so... Can you do that? Can you do that? Cool. And he basically sent Spider-Man back through the worst moments of his life. Every single punch he basically got from every single supervillain. Seeing Gwen Stacy die again. Nearly getting drowned by Dr. Octopus. The whole thing. It was a massive gauntlet that he struggled through and got back to his starting point. Warned Reed Richards. And then Doctor Strange turns up in this... new present and says, don't worry guys, I'm gonna solve this with magic because I'm Dr. Motherfucking Strange. And he does it, and he says, okay, so hey Spider-Man, how'd you know not to tell Reed Richards not to use the science doohickey? And Spider-Man says, you told me in an alternate timeline. Oh, okay, well, considering you saved all of reality, I'm gonna give you a little gift. He hands him a box. Peter Parker then, once he's changed out of his clothes as Spider-Man, opens the box and there's a little note inside. And the note says, you have a few minutes, use them as you wish. And he turns around and Uncle Ben is there.
Aww.
Almost stolen from time, right up to the very point where he died. It was like, hey Pete, how you doing? I could have sworn I heard something like May shouting or something. I don't know. How you been, Peter? And Peter's like, I'm great, Uncle Ben. And I've missed you so much. And he hugs him, and a little bit after that, Uncle Ben disappears.
Oh, that's like the Thomas Wayne note in Flashpoint.
It is a bit like that, yeah, but I personally think it's done a bit better. But then that's me, you know,
I've never read
biased.
Flashpoint. I probably should.
I mean, I haven't read Flashpoint, but I have seen like the animated adaptation, and that was rather good. But
yeah, I've heard good things about it. I need to catch up on all of the animated movies. Sorry for sidetracking.
Yeah. No, that's fine. But I just wanted to make a point that I think that's the only time that they've officially brought Uncle Ben back. Other times it's been like clones or robots or illusions or whatever. This time it was technically, for a split second, real. And it was a very beautiful moment. But so, yeah, I think it's really cool that Marvel, for a little while, had a lesbian relationship with an outer space superhero possessing the quantum bands and an outer space lesbian dragon. Like, I think that's great.
That's awesome.
And now let's get your pick from number 8.
Mine is someone who has become more of a staple now since he has been integrated into the CW universe, and he is probably the best character in general there, but he's not the only character on this list that is from there, and that's John Constantine.
See, I thought you might pick him. I was hesitant to pick him because, again, similar with Deadpool, I'm not familiar with that side of his identity, but I think it's great that he is.
Yeah, I remember, because I haven't read a lot of comics with him, mostly just Bombshells. He's very important in Bombshells, and he's great in that. But I'm going to talk about Bombshells later.
Of course you are. I knew you would.
Of course I was going to talk about Bombshells.
That was no surprise to me whatsoever.
He is at least in the TV shows, like in the original NBC show, which unfortunately failed, and I liked it a lot. There's a joke.
Well, I like I like Matt Ryan in that. I like John Constantine, the character. I did not like a lot of the side characters. I hated that lady he was with.
Yeah, I don't even remember her name.
It's a stupid name. I don't like her because I hated the actress playing her because every single facial expression she had in that movie was mild annoyance. I just ended up calling her Frowny Face because that was the only expression she had, and she was really fucking annoying. Thankfully, though, he appeared later on in Arrow and I think Flash, and
now he's a staple character on Legends Tomorrow. And that's kind of like there was half a joke on the original show about him sleeping with a guy, but now in Legends Tomorrow, he is just all out. Like he had a tryst with one of the agents of the Time Bureau for a little bit named Gary. Him and someone I'll talk about later have been just like sleeping their way through the time stream. And
between him and White Canary, like there's a lot of satisfied historical figures out there.
One of the major plot points for this season was that his boyfriend went to hell and then came back possessed as a demon, and it just hit like
because everyone associated with John Constantine ends up going to hell at some point or another.
But it is heartbreaking. There is a scene that is probably one of the best acted scenes in all of the CW, which again, low bar, but it's him holding open the gates of hell, telling his boy, like, he is saying goodbye to his boyfriend. He is bawling and is like, all he can do is send this man he loves to hell because that is the only way to keep the rest of the world safe. And it is heartbreaking. And then he destroys the time stream by saving his life and then realizes he has to send him to hell again. And he's like, this is the worst.
That's like a modern day Buffy and Angel scene. Do we know his exact identity? Is that confirmed? Is he bisexual?
I don't think they mention it explicitly in the show, but he has had girlfriends and boyfriends. He slept with White Canary.
Oh wow!
When they first met, they slept together, and then he was also hitting on Captain Cold, and he's been
that's another great character.
Captain Cold when he came back from from Earth 2 and he was gay. So
because Wentworth, whatever his face, it's just like giving up all pretense. Like, come on, guys, let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there was a scene in the first season. I have watched the first season when Captain Cold hits on White Canary, and just like, okay, yeah, sure. You're gay. Come on.
That whole relationship is dumb. Like it's forced, and like I don't like season 1 of Legends that much. I really only like Hawkwoman, and then they get rid of her. But
I was tempted to come back to it once I heard that Matt Ryan was going to be in it. I was very tempted. I haven't done it yet. I'm sticking with the DC Universe shows.
Oh, they're great.
Actually, no, I take that back. I'm sticking with Doom Patrol and then later Swamp Thing.
Shows. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah. Titans is okay, but actually really good Doom Patrol. I think actually really good on CW is Black Lightning. And Legends Tomorrow is just like my guilty pleasure. Like it has some good moments, but for the most part, it's just kind of a fun show where they don't take themselves seriously at all.
Look, here's an episode where they're puppets. That's never been done before, except every single show ever.
Well, it was an episode that was actually the episode that John had to send his boyfriend back to hell.
What? Really? Oh my god!
Because he fucked the time stream so bad that everyone got turned into puppets, and then Zari got turned into a cat. Is that he could fix the timeline where he didn't actually have to go back and fix the thing that he broke, and so people kept turning into different things. And there was one where just like everyone died, like Sara died, and they all became really evil.
Oh no! Oh my god! It's the darkest timeline.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's fucking great. I think we're going to move on now to number 7. And now, this may be cheating slightly, but it's my show. Fuck off, I don't care. I'm picking motherfucking Captain Jack Harkness.
Yeah, that's like the only, I guess, Doctor Who universe character I really know is him.
I mean, let's describe Captain Jack Harkness for a second. He is from the far distant future. He is a time traveler. He was part of the Time Agency, but he left the Time Agency after they stole like a year of his memories. He then became a con artist and tried to sell a bit of scrap to a Time Lord called the Doctor and tried to convince him that it was really important, which nearly caused an epidemic in the end of humanity, nearly got blown up for it, tried to sacrifice himself, got saved, travelled around a bit more, died at the hands of the Daleks, got accidentally made immortal by a TARDIS-possessed Rose Tyler, and then tried to teleport to the Doctor with his wrist time travel device, got stuck in the 1800s on Earth, realised, oh shit, I can't die, every time I die I come back, got recruited forcibly into an agency called Torch, which was there to scavenge alien technology and just try and stop aliens, kind of like a very dark unit, which is a more military sort of thing, sort of like British Men in Black, if you will. The Torch was some British Men in Black.
Which is happening.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a whole thing entirely, jeez. And then since then lived presumably forever, or does he? Also, he's omnisexual!
Yeah.
And, I mean, this guy, there is no one he can't seduce, except potentially asexual people. I think that's only because he's too polite to try. Everyone hits on him. He hits on everyone, and he once subdued an orgasm-feeding alien that was killing people just by giving her a kiss.
I've heard a lot about this guy. I didn't hear about that.
He has a World War II era greatcoat. He has a World War II era pistol. And he's got magnificently gelled hair.
Yeah, seeing like pictures and scenes with him. I've never watched Torchwood or Doctor Who, but
and yet also, like, this character on the surface, he sounds kind of silly, right? And he is a little bit silly. But in Torchwood, and indeed in Doctor Who, he can be very, very serious. The weight of leading this torture team is 100% on his shoulders. And he keeps a lot of secrets from his team, especially in the first season, which a lot of people say isn't very good, which is fair enough, but still. And it leads to some very dark moments with him. And he is 100% willing to kill for what he believes in to protect his team. He's even willing to kill members of his team if he thinks that they are going too far.
Damn.
He can be a very dark character, and he has a lot of interesting relationships with the main character in the show, Gwen Cooper, with the office boy.
He's not the main character? I've always assumed he was the main character.
Well, he kind of is the main character, but the audience surrogate character, the one we spend the most time with, is Gwen Cooper.
Oh, okay.
Played by... Crap, I've forgotten her name now. She was in, like, the second season of Broadchurch, you know her. And so here's the thing, we don't know... Here's the thing. We know a bit about him from Doctor Who, but we don't... But so much time has passed since then, when we get to Torchwood Season 1, we don't know that much about him. And he's very enigmatic, and he passes things off as a joke. And he talks about how, like, because of birth control... No. There's estrogen that goes into the water system, which evaporates into the sky, which comes down as rain. And in the very first scene, of the very first episode, the very first season, we hear him saying the line, "Contraceptives in the rain, I love this planet." I cannot and of course he's played by the incomparable, the magnificent John Barrowman.
Oh yeah, he was my favorite part of Arrow, even though he didn't get much to do.
I mean, it's great. It's so weird seeing an Arrow playing this truly dark character, because he's a bit dark in the show, but he's kind of dark. I mean, he does some very bad shit as the show goes on. And he's still the hero, and we still kind of like him, though, because he's just so charming. But behind the facade of all the charm, we see a truly wounded individual, a truly confused individual who really struggles with his immortality. It's not a fun immortality. It's not a pleasant immortality. It's a very, very grinding down to the dust immortality. And in fact, the Doctor, when he finally reunites with him, basically says, like, "I don't know what to make of you, Jack. I look at you, and I know in my Time Lord gut that you're a fixed point in time and space, and that's not meant to happen. You're wrong, Jack." And Jack's like, "Well, that makes you sound a bit prejudiced." And the Doctor's like, "Yeah, I suppose I kind of am."
Yeah.
It's quite a curse, actually. And the show portrays that, and the concept of death, actually, in general, really interestingly. And there's lots of other LGBTQIA plus characters in the show. Like, I mean, basically all the characters are bisexual. Basically, I mean,
Great.
at one point or another, they all have, at the very least, a kiss with another character of the same sex. But at this, I mean, what do you expect from a showrunner like Russell T Davies? Like, he held back on Doctor Who, and even then, jeez. So, I mean, he's fucking amazing, and for me, he comes under the concept of superhero. I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a like an outside idea, but yeah, definitely superhero.
So you haven't watched Torchwood then?
No, not at all.
Watch Torchwood. What I mean, once you're past the first season, it's fine, but it's not as good as the second season or the third season. Right. The fourth season, I wouldn't bother with, but, you know, if you want to watch it for completion's sake, that's fine. Even though not much gets completed, it's a whole thing. Moving on now to your pick for number 7.
My number 7 is someone we've mentioned already. It's Larry Trainor / Negative Man. Who...
Larry!
As far as I know, is not gay in any adaptation or any version of him except for the show. Matt Bomer was an absolute perfect cast for this. He is gay. Like, he's gorgeous and just...
He's in Will and Grace now.
He is? Weird.
Yeah, in the last season of Will and Grace, he was in it. He's dating Will.
Okay.
And he's funny in that, let me tell you that much.
Yeah. He's a funny guy. And he doesn't, like, of course, both him and Brendan Fraser don't actually embody these characters. They do in flashbacks. But and I can't remember the name of the actor that plays Larry, but there is another actor who was more skilled in, you know, body language, actually embodying Larry.
Yeah. And you really get across... Because here's the thing, Larry Trainor is a character who is radioactive. He has to wear these bandages to stop people from getting irradiated in his presence. Me, personally, I'd wear a fucking hazmat suit, but that's fine. He looks cooler this way when he looks a bit like... Yeah. He's got the whole Claude Rains things going on, it's fine. And it means that he's totally isolated and cut off from everyone, even the people he's closest to. And the actor playing him physically... does a great job of portraying this guy who seems really closed off. He feels very, like, he's just kind of standing. He's not, like, hunched over. But he feels very insulated and cut off from everyone else. And just his body language and his posture. Except for that one time where Danny the Street teleports them back to the Doom Manor. And when Larry was in the middle of doing karaoke.
Yeah, very badly, too. When he comes back, he's, like, totally off key. And he's like, wait a second, was I that bad? So in his head he sings like Matt Bomer. In reality he can't sing, which is hilarious. But
maybe his vocal cords were burned in the explosion.
Yeah, probably.
That's the thing, he's fused with a spirit of energy, an alien energy source.
The negative spirit. And it's a beautiful metaphor for internalized homophobia, is that their entire arc together is that Larry grew up in the 60s. He is in the 50s and 60s. He was a pilot. He was closeted. He had a wife and 2 sons, but he was in love with another pilot. And
his wife knew.
Oh, his wife totally
fucking knew.
And
she was not okay with it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is cheating. Like... It is just a different kind of cheating.
That's the thing that makes it good. Like, the show doesn't shy away from the fact that he was expressing himself and being true to himself, but he was betraying someone.
Yeah, he was betraying his family.
He did technically love.
He did. Oh yeah.
He did love his wife, just not in that way.
Oh god, there's a scene where he's like in a dream and he's holding his son and he's like bawling and I'm like, ah. But like there's this like great metaphor here of like he essentially ruined all these people that he loved lives. Because he couldn't, like, the more he tortures himself, the more he can't be true to himself, the more he hurts the people around him. And how much, like, he hates himself, he hurts himself emotionally, and the negative spirit also expresses, he can't talk, he can't express himself, he's expressing himself in a way of, look, you are fucking physically hurting me. I am dying when I am inside you. Please stop. Please stop being terrible.
Fucking, like, watch an episode of Sesame Street, for God's sake, Larry.
Yeah, like, he is, like...
Larry!
He is this
he has a beautiful arc with his boyfriend John, and it's, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but it is a gorgeous episode with John, and like Larry has this amazing arc where he comes out. I mean, he comes out unwittingly. There's a scene where Cliff is like, "You're gay," and Larry's like, "I wasn't gonna say that, but sure." And Cliff's like, "It's okay. We all knew." And he comes out. He becomes more true to himself. He really becomes one with the negative spirit, and they work together really well. And I love them, and I can't wait to see more of Larry and him moving on emotionally, like going to see his kids maybe because they're probably still alive, and getting a new boyfriend and hanging out with Rita, his best friend, and another one of my favorite characters on the show.
I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but Rita is such a hag.
Oh, she is. You don't know the extent of Rita Farr. You don't know the depths. I love her. I love her.
I'm not saying I don't love her. I'm saying she's a hag.
She is, there is so much to her that you haven't seen yet. And I think the only weak point in that show, I think, is Cyborg. And even that's hard to do. He's also very good.
I mean, Cyborg's fine, and I'll take one fine character out of 6 brilliant characters,
absolutely.
Not counting all the side characters that we only see for an episode. That whole show is mind-blowing to me. I mean, I'm still not finished with it, but I'm not going to leave it aside.
Even exists is in the form that it does is so amazing. It shouldn't be able, no one would be like, hey, we're going to do this weird ass show, and you're just going to have to put up with some of the weird stuff, and we're not going to explain a lot of it because we don't need to. It's just there. You're going to have to accept it. No.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, we are going to fuck a fucking cockroach named Ezekiel, voiced by that guy from American Dad in it.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, we're going to have our own character ripoff. We're going to have our own John Constantine ripoff in the show. What, the character that was specifically written to be a John Constantine ripoff. And when they could have, because it's DC, they could easily just have John Constantine. They can have whatever they want, and that's the only reason probably why this show wasn't sold to another studio.
Well, I mean that's
happen.
So you're talking about that Willoughby Kipling character, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. John Constantine was apparently going to be in the original Doom Patrol comic,
right,
at some point, but they couldn't get him, so they just made up their own character.
Because at the time, Constantine was in Vertigo, and they didn't want to move. They didn't want to have the Vertigo characters interact with the normal mainstay DC characters, which has totally been thrown out the window now.
Yeah, that lasted.
Yeah, that did not last that long, and even it goes the other way too. Doom Patrol is now a Vertigo series.
Yeah.
I think the current run is written by Gerard Way, who wrote Umbrella Academy. So he has had 2 very good shows.
Wait, is that the guy from My Chemical Romance?
Yeah, he's the lead singer of My Chemical Romance.
That guy's got a very interesting career.
Yeah,
moving on, I think we're going to move on to number 6. Now, coming up with this list, I wanted to take different characters that embodied different aspects of the LGBTQIA community. And one thing that needs to be talked about a lot, especially considering the high level of trauma, depression, and suicide rates, are teen LGBTQIA people.
Right.
And a great example, I think, would be, and I'm sort of cheating by including 2 characters on this, but they're very much intertwined because they were introduced together, is Wiccan and Hulkling.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Wiccan and Hulkling are from the Young Avengers, basically a ripoff of Young Justice, but what the fuck, I don't care.
Well, not directly. This is some of them are actually the young versions of actual Avengers, yeah?
Not really. No, well, maybe it's later versions, but when they were introduced, you had Kate Bishop, who's Hawkeye's mentee protege.
Yeah.
You had Wiccan, who admittedly was later revealed to be the son somehow of Scarlet Witch.
Right. Yeah. One of my friends explained this to me, and
It was a very interesting explanation.
Fucking Children's Crusade! It's a whole thing. They had the Iron Lad, which was actually Kang the Conqueror. That's a whole thing. They had Patriot, which is sort of like wasn't related to Captain America anyway, was the Captain America analogy. And Hulkling, who was actually, I think, part Skrull, if I remember correctly, but is not at all Gamma related. And he and Wiccan are in a relationship. It's established from the very beginning. And it's a very cute relationship, if being honest. I don't know that much about them. I haven't seen that much about them beyond like the Children's Crusade and the Young Avengers comic, like right from the beginning. I used to read it ages ago, and it was kind of cool. And they got more and more of the spotlight as things went on. And what made me want to include them on this list was not just the fact that it was established they have a relationship right from the beginning and that they're teenagers, but also I think it's Hulkling introduces Wiccan to his parents, if I remember correctly. I think they might be his adopted parents or something, I don't know. Showing my lack of knowledge here, but still. And they immediately accept Wiccan, and it's just like, okay, it's great, it's cool. And they didn't know he was gay, but now they do know. And it's just like, okay, great, fine. And it's such a wholesome, lovely, tender moment. And it really needs to be showcased. And so cool. And then there's plenty of stories out there with parents not quite getting it or outright rejecting their children. And those stories need to be told. But you also need to be told about the parents who do accept their children, who are absolutely fine with it, don't see there anything to be not fine with it. And it's just a good time for all.
Yeah.
I don't really have much to say more about that.
It's great.
Absolutely. So let's move on now to your one for number 6.
This one is the first queer character in all of the CW universe. Well, I guess first with someone else. And this is Sara Lance, White Canary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what season on Arrow she was brought back, but she was supposedly dead.
It was either 2 or 3.
Yeah, she was supposedly dead, and then she came back and she started sleeping with Oliver again, and then out of nowhere they're being stalked by Nyssa Al Ghul, and they finally meet up, and there's this very tense moment of like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna fight? And Nyssa just walks up to Sara and kisses her. And it is one of the most holy shit moments I have ever gotten from that show. And I was like clapping, and Sara has gone through so much over the course of all of the shows that she's been in. And finally, she is, she's, again, we mentioned this earlier, she has slept through all of time. She slept with the Queen of France. She slept with Guinevere. She has been with a lot of people, but she, in these last 2 seasons, she has essentially settled down. She's not engaged, she's not married, but like she's been talking about the future with her current girlfriend, Ava Sharp, who's the head of the Time Bureau in Legends of Tomorrow, and they have this beautiful relationship, and like very much hinting at like this isn't gonna end. This isn't like this is the end game ship. This is like Oliver and Felicity. This is Barry and Iris. This is what Legends Tomorrow's big relationship that's going forever is going to be, is Ava and Sara. And it is, I love them to death, and Ava Sharp is a mess of a person, and debatably not even a person, but she is great. I'm glad they, made both of these women up for these shows. These women don't exist in any comic adaptation. Sara was supposed to be an amalgam, like Sara and Laurel are both supposed to be an amalgamation of Dinah, and I've never understood their need to not actually have Dinah Lance and stay.
Honestly, as someone who's been reading a lot of Birds of Prey recently, I think the Arrowverse kind of just fucked up Black Canary in general. I don't think it's terrible, but
after because I think it was Greg. No, it was. I don't think it was Greg Berlanti. It was someone who was on Arrow as a showrunner when they killed off Laurel, and Jeff Johns tweeted, "If you can write Green Arrow without Black Canary, you're not writing them correctly." And so he went behind their back and signed Katie Cassidy for like 3 more seasons, which is why she's still around. and why she's Black Siren.
Oh, okay. She's back, is she?
It's Earth.
Because I stopped watching Arrow shortly after she died, because I was just like, I'm kind of done with this now.
It's Earth 2 Laurel, and she's...
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is! Whenever they run out of characters, they just borrow one from another planet.
Yeah. There's a lot of Earth 2 characters now that are, like, mainstays. I haven't watched anything in a real long time from that. I've literally only been watching Black Lightning and Legends of Tomorrow. So I'm worried about Crisis on Infinite Earths because I don't want either of those shows to be involved, and they're going to be. But I like Sara she's in her own little bubble now and happy with Ava, and they will be forever, hopefully, and they have book club together and normal relationship drama instead of dumb things like, are they cheating? Like it never is that. Like they are committed to each other all the time, and even when they have fights and they're like not talking for a little bit, Sara is constantly like, I am calling Ava all the time, please talk to me, I love you.
And you know what? It makes it all more important because White Canary has not had a good life. She was stranded at sea. She went through all sorts of trauma. Trained to be an assassin. She died. Got resurrected in the Lazarus Pit, which I can tell from you from experience. It's not a fun time. Don't ask.
Yeah.
It's so nice and so gratifying to have a character that's been through so much shit to have a possibility for a good life.
She
and I swear to God,
how she doesn't think she deserves it, and I'm like, no, you do.
You do, sweet Berry Sarah, you do. And I love. I swear. I mean, this is the problem. You see, I should have mentioned this earlier with the whole Moondragon thing. I know a lot of. Here's the thing. There's a trope going around that we've learned in recent years called the "bury your gays" trope.
Yep.
Which we hate.
It's bad. It's dumb.
And
I'm looking at Walking Dead because they've done it like twice now.
I mean, here's the thing. In shows like The Walking Dead, I give them a free pass because in shows like Walking Dead, almost everyone is allowed to die. Like, there's very little plot armor. And, like, in the world of zombies, like, the zombies don't care if you're gay or not. They'll eat you just the same.
Right. But the ratio to gay to straight characters that die is, there's been 4 or 5 gay characters, 3 of them are dead.
Yeah, and the reason I bring this up is because, as we said before, death in comics is rarely permanent, and just because you bring a character back, I'm sorry I didn't mention this the Moondragon thing, I forgot, just because you bring a character back doesn't mean the trope doesn't still apply. And I know I've been up because in these shows, a lot of characters die and brought back, it still applies, okay? When you use a gay character, we kill off a gay character, or the ratio is out of balance, it's not okay. So we just want to state that for the record. Now that's enshrined into legend.
Okay, that's the whole, like, people were rioting when Sara died on Arrow. Like, she was the only queer character in the entire universe at that point. I mean, other than Nyssa. But Nyssa wasn't a major character anymore. She had kind of been sidelined. So Sara was really the only character on the show, on either show, because I think Flash had already started at that point. And they killed her, and it was horrible. And then they, brought her back, and it was great that they brought her back. And now there's tons of queer characters on all of these shows, mostly because, I mean, the guy who's show running pretty much all of them except for Black Lightning is the guy who directed Love, Simon. Like, he is all over queer representation, which is great.
That's Greg Berlanti, isn't it?
I think that's Greg Berlanti. I get Greg Berlanti and the guy who was originally on Arrow confused.
Yeah, he's done a lot, as you say. Props to him. It's really good. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of diversity of characters. I'm sure that won't be the last CW gay character you mentioned on this list. We're going to move on. Move on for now. Were we at number 7 or number 6?
That was 6.
Okay, so we're going to move on now to number 5. And I am sort of hesitant to put this character on here. I'm not sure if she applies. But what the fuck, I love this character, so I'm going to do it anyway. Xena Warrior Princess!
Ah! Yeah, I would consider her a superhero. Kinda. I mean, she fits.
Oh, here's the thing. I wasn't worried about putting on the list of not she's a superhero. I think she does qualify, as you say. I'm worried because in the show they never explicitly state one way or the other that she is in fact gay.
I've seen pictures of
it's
her friend, right? Like that happened.
That they kissing Gabrielle,
Mm-hmm.
Gabriella, I can't remember. And here's the thing: outside the show, Lucy Lawless, the show, lots of people have said, "Oh, she is 100% gay, at the very least bisexual," because she does get involved with a lot of men as the show goes on. In fact, when she was introduced in Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, she had a pseudo-romantic relationship with Hercules' psychic, even though it turned out she was a ploy because she was an evil warrior princess who wanted to take over the world. But then she reformed. And in Xena Warrior Princess, she set out on a quest for redemption, accompanied by Gabrielle/Gabriella, who is the cutest little kid in the world, just so quirky and clever, and I love it. And they get very, very close, become friends, possibly become more than that. And there are episodes where they kiss, but that only in the sense of they try to get away with as much as they could. Bear in mind, this was a show made in the 90s.
Yeah. I think they did as much as they could for a show that was kind of marketed towards children primarily.
I wouldn't say sort of like teenagers.
Okay.
It's very much like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer ones. And so I don't know whether it's like someone else's personal headcanon or even the actors playing them personal headcanon count towards
I think
them
we've gotten.
being
I
LGBT.
think Word of God, I think, applies here. I think we've gotten. I mean, like they did as much as they could. At the time.
if J.K. Rowling can say that Dumbledore's gay, I think
not
it's the same
have
principle.
any at all proof of it ever in any adaptation or any iteration.
Which still annoys me. Like, in the Philosopher's Stone, I get it. Chamber of Secrets, Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince. That makes sense. But in the last book, that's when we find out all this stuff about Dumbledore.
Right.
You couldn't have concluded that.
And they don't even include it in the movie where they could have. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and J.K. Rowling has, in fact, in recent months, shown that she has done it in a wrong way.
Absolutely.
We all know what we're talking about, but, I mean, like, I imagine a scene where Harry was finding all this stuff out about Dumbledore, and he finds out that Dumbledore was gay, and he was like, wait, what? And Hermione would be like, well, yeah, of course, didn't you know that? And Ron would make an inappropriate comment, and that's how it would go.
Yeah, exactly.
And Harry would realise, oh, well, I don't really care about that, I'm more concerned about this other stuff.
That's the least most shocking thing that he probably finds out about Dumbledore.
And I was like, you're telling me you really didn't know? Well, when did you know? Year one!
It's like the first episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Gina figures out that Holt's gay, and no one else figures it out until he says it at the end of the episode. He's like, I thought I was giving off a big gay vibe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other thing. Let's hear your pick for number 5.
Another technically CW character, but she is most known for her comic book appearances. Anissa Pierce, aka Thunder. She's the daughter of Black Lightning, the one of 2 daughters, and she and her girlfriend Grace Choi were kind of they were very important in one of the runs of Batman and the Outsiders, and she in the Black Lightning show, she's part of the reason why I think that show is actually very, very good. She's played by Nefessa Williams, who is she is brilliant. She's like she's a medical student. She's a doctor or she's like a nurse at one of the hospitals nearby. She is powerful. She goes on several protests. She destroys a Civil War monument with her powers. She goes after the police.
Hot button issue.
Oh yeah, like she is. Black Lightning is fantastic. She is part of the reason. She's pretty much all of the reason why that show is fantastic. There's a lot of other things.
I gotta go back to that show because when I watched like the first 4 or 5 episodes, and it was really fucking boring for me.
That's fair. Like I immediately fell in love with it. I think mostly because like Jefferson reminds me eerily a lot like my dad. Like he reminds me way too much of my dad.
The actor playing him has very like dad like let's be honest.
Oh,
the actor playing him in real life, I'm just gonna assume, is a daddy.
Oh,
and I don't mean a father, I mean a daddy.
There's some scenes with him and Lynn that suggest that. But he, like,
because I mean he was in Heart of Dixie as well, which I unashamedly liked when it was on, and he was kind of a daddy in that as well. He was the Mayor Lavon Hayes
that I've heard of him being in. He's doing, because all of them do, you know, different movies, but he was Steel in the most recent Superman animated movie.
Oh yeah, the Reign of the Supermen.
Yeah.
Of course he was. You know, is it Samuel Irons? No, that's the son of that's an actual actor. What's his name? John Henry Irons. John Henry Irons is Steele's real name, and John Henry Irons is also a daddy.
But back to Anissa. The show, and kind of been hinting towards that she's going to get the same powers that she does in Young Justice, Batman and the Outsiders, which I say Young Justice because now Anissa as a child has been introduced in Young Justice, and I'm hoping, because they do a lot of time jumps, that next season she's part of the team with her sister Jennifer.
Because we saw a character that appeared in this later season, which I haven't yet watched in full, so no spoilers for that. We saw a character that appeared as a child in like season 1 or something.
Yeah, who's a character this season.
I think it was Arrowette, or I don't know.
It was Arrowette was a child in season 1. Spoiler shows up in season 2, and now they're both characters. They're not major characters right now, but they're both there. So Young Justice has a history. I mean, like, there was a whole episode surrounding how Beast Boy becomes Beast Boy, and then in season 2 he's a major character. So they always like bring back people, and there's an entire episode in season 3 where all of the Justice League members all bring their kids over for a play date. There's the next generation is every kid in that episode. Like, Jonathan Kent's there.
Hey guys, I bought Leanne Harper. I sure hope nothing bad happens to her.
Leon is there. Dawn and Dawn are there. Dawn and Dawn, West Allen.
And look, here's little baby Damian Wayne, the cute little murderer.
He's not in that play date, but he is in the season. Yeah.
Don't spoil it. I haven't seen him.
I mean, he's not important. It's just kind of like an oh shit moment if you know what's going on. But like there's all these kids, and so like Anissa and Jennifer are already, it seems, older than that. Like, they're not babies. They're at least, 5 or 6, because they still share a bedroom. But they and they're not twins. Like, Anissa's older than Jennifer. But in the CW show, she is this amazing, powerful woman of color who is also queer. Like, she has a couple girlfriends throughout the show, but like Grace Troy, who says also that she's bi. She's not like, I appreciate mixed sexuality couples. I appreciate that a lot, because that happens a lot more than you would assume. Like, a lot of especially
just because you have a couple that happens to be a woman and a woman doesn't necessarily mean that they're both lesbian.
Right. Like, that happens a lot in TV shows, that they don't really try to go in depth in the relationship. They just say, okay, they're both lesbians, which is fine in some cases, but I would like to see a little bit more diversity with them. Like, Grace is explicitly bi, and Anissa is explicitly a lesbian, and they're great to get. Like, she's so corny with her girlfriends. Like, I think the second.
Well, when you say corny, do you mean corny in a funny, cute, and charming way, or in a Riverdale way?
No, in like a charming, cute way. Like, one of the first things she says to her girlfriend in the second episode is like, "Girl, you're so fine. You bring sight to the blind," and it is.
That's a bit Riverdale-ish, if I'm being honest. It's a little bit Riverdale.
But like, she knows it's dorky, and her girlfriend calls her out on it. It's cute. Like, she is very cute, and she continues that. Like, she is a massive flirt. Like, she's not just this, like, she has so much depth to her in a way that I have not seen, especially in a character of color or a queer character, in a very long time. And she is just fantastic.
Awesome. On a side note, I would like to visit the town of Riverdale and slap every single member of that town in the face and tell them to face reality. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on now to number 4. And I think this counts. You know, it definitely fucking counts. And again, I'm going to pick 2 people because this is worth talking about.
Right.
Sailor Neptune and Sailor Uranus.
Okay.
From the anime Sailor Moon.
Are they actually together? I didn't know that they were together.
Well, here's the thing, you see. In the original Japanese show, they were 100% confirmed as a couple. In the American dub, they changed it so that they were cousins.
Woof.
But here's the thing. Even though they changed that, they still accidentally left some dialogue in their dub, which included them flirting with each other. So in trying to avoid one morally reprehensible thing, they ended up creating an incest couple.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah!
That's fun.
Yeah, and I bring this up mainly for that reason, because I don't know much about Sailor Moon. I tried watching a few episodes, and I realized, oh, wow, I do not like this. Like, the only character I actually kind of like at all is the fucking cat. And that's just because she kind of reminds me of Minerva McGonagall for some reason, if not slightly toned down. A bit less Scottish, but still. It's, oh god. And, so there's this people, they're the Sailor Scouts, they're girls, and they transform into, like, school uniforms with the powers of planets. With the exception of Sailor Moon and I guess Sailor Pluto, poor her.
Yeah, she was a planet.
Yeah. And Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune, I'm given to understand, appeared quite late in the show after like Sailor Mars and Sailor Mercury and stuff, and Sailor Jupiter. I like to point out that all of these characters are like 13 years old.
Right.
I think Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune are actually a bit older. I don't know that for certain. Do not quote me on that. I just find it so interesting that at the time, it was absolutely fine for Japan to put that sort of thing in a children's cartoon, and as soon as it went to America, just like, oh god, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. And thankfully we've gone a lot further than that, to the point we've even had LGBTQ characters in children's cartoons, somewhat sporadically, but they're there.
Yeah.
And
I mean, from what I've heard from my friends who are into anime, it's also hard in Japan to get that kind of representation.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more stuff like that now, but I'm given to understand, and bear in mind, I'm not an anime expert whatsoever. You'd be better off asking Mark Ross or something about this. That sometimes the representation isn't quite as good. Like, recently, just because I was bored and it was there on YouTube, and just like, my recommendations are weird, but I got a recommendation for like a reaction thing to two gay women reacting to an episode of a Japanese anime, a recent one, called, I think it was called Citrus or something. And it was very strange, and I did a bit of research just because I was just fascinated with this train kind of thing. And it's a show about this girl whose mum remarries, and her new stepsister is on like the student council at school. And she's very closed off, this student council girl, except she keeps suddenly, basically calling what it is, attacking people with her lips. Just like kissing people out of nowhere. And it's framed, it's meant to be in the show this sort of semi-romantic sexual thing, but they end up framing it accidentally in the show as, well, I'll just call it what it is, very rapey.
Yeah. And
the people reacting to the show were not fans, and I cannot say I blame them. And it's very, very squicky, and that's just one example. There's a whole world of there. I think it's called it's like, for men it's called yaoi, if I remember my South Park episode correctly. And
for girls, yuri. Yeah.
Yuri, right, that's it. And so I don't know anything about that sort of representation. I really, truly don't, so I'm not going to talk about it. But if that shows anything to go on, apparently the representation isn't great. But from what I could tell in the Sailor Moon show, the representation in the original Japanese thing, at least, was alright. I don't really know anything more about that. I wanted to bring it up, show A, the stupidity, and B, the incompetence of the American dubbers, changing it so that the lesbian couple became cousins and then still keeping the flirting.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that just kind of gets past somehow.
Yep. And so, well, what's your pick for number 4?
So this is also a weird one. It is everyone in Bombshells.
Because everyone in DC's Bombshells is gay.
There is, and I do this not wanting to do individual characters because it's an entire series where the entire premise is all these queer women fighting Nazis, and they take characters who weren't yet confirmed or haven't never been confirmed to be queer and have made them queer. Like Wonder Woman was yet to have been revealed to be bi. She's bi in the show. In the series, she kisses Steve Trevor, and then Mira comes out of the water and she's like, I was her first kiss. And
I'm the fucking Little Mermaid, bitches.
And Mira does get with Arthur. Like there's these traditional relationships that we know of that happen, but there's also like Catwoman's sexuality is apparently just bat because she is all over Kate like the entire series.
Yeah.
And Lois meets Kara and is Lois Lane and Kara Zor-El, but like I can't remember what her Russian last name is because she's Russian in Bombshells.
She and Stargirl Russian.
Russian sisters. And
they defect.
Yeah, they defect because they don't like the Soviet Union, but they very much are not American. They want Amanda Waller to know that.
Oh.
And like Dr. Light and Big Barda are together. There's a weird
You
thing
are cheating so much in this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Harley and Ivy are together. Like that's a staple. Like there's
that's
a weird
that's
thing
been a thing for a while.
Yeah, that's been a thing even before this. Zatanna and Joker's daughter and Raven, like that's it's an abusive relationship and they frame it like that, but like there's this idea of like
because there's
Joker's
nothing
daughter
wrong.
Seduces and manipulates a lot of women. But like Zatanna and Raven are kind of working through the fact that they still are in love with her, but they know that she is a terrible person. They need to, move forward from that.
Because it's important to represent those sorts of relationships as well, Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Oh god. And Batgirl, like she flirts with Frankie Charles. Alyssa Yeoh, who's not a hero in the mainline comics, is a Batgirl and she's trans. And
every woman is having sex with every woman in the 1940s, and that's the comic.
Oh yeah.
When are they gonna make a cartoon out of that?
Want some kind of like animated or live action adaptation so bad. But like we are
getting a Stargirl show, I think.
We are getting a Stargirl show. DC has been doing the thing where they only have one show on at a time. And they do it like back the same show, and once that show ends, it's a new show. It's always Fridays, and so Swamp Thing is next, and then I think after that is
You make my heart sing, bam 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 bam. Swamp Thing.
Bombshells comes in Bombshells United, which was the sequel, which is Black Canary. She's a singer and she's in Hawaii and she's on the beach talking to someone. I can't remember who she's talking to, but she says, I think the quote's like, "My mom thought I was all snips and snails before I was old enough to tell her otherwise." And like, so like everyone is queer and they're amazing, and it is fantastic representation for anyone who needs it. I think they even like explicitly says that like Kara has 3 moms.
It's Krypton, like, you can do that.
Yeah. And then like from like gene splicing or whatever. I can't remember the name of the lady who is always hanging out with Zod, but she's the Zod of this world, and she is also technically Kara's mom.
I want to say Ursa. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. But we had, and it's not just like queer representation all of it. Was a lot of really great, interesting world building. Like, you know, there's a bunch of Batgirls. It's hard to kind of differentiate between Batgirl and
there
the
are so
Batgirls.
many Bat characters even in the mainstream DC universe. It's impossible to keep track of them.
But there's the Batgirls who are all like teenagers and two boys who is away in Europe fighting the war, and Batgirl, actual Barbara Gordon, is a vampire. And it's just kind of and she's the leader of like that version of the Suicide Squad. And it's way better. And they introduced it in the annual, which came out like a week before the Suicide Squad movie. But it is like probably my favorite Suicide Squad team is that version of them.
I mean, dear God. I mean, you've no idea how much I wanted to put Carmilla on this list, but I thought I couldn't quite justify it.
Well, I've got a vampire on this list technically, so I've got a million people on this list because Bombshells. But it's a great series. I recommend it to everyone always.
I also recommend it, having read it on your recommendation, so thank you for that. Yeah. Moving on, I think we're going to go on to number 3. And this is where it gets kind of tricky. I had a list of lots of people, and I was like, ooh, who makes the top 3? The top 3. I decided to go for number 3, Karolina Dean.
Yeah, I was.
Now, I have watched part of the Runaways TV show. I have not watched all of it, and I mainly like the comics. So my reference for this list is mainly going to come from that. And I just think it's great that she's the daughter of Hollywood actors that are actually aliens, discovers her alien heritage, discovers that she can fly and transform into psychedelic colours, and her being gay is the least amazing thing about her.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Then she meets Zavin, who I don't know if has appeared in the show or not, but I'm just going to... Spoilers from the comics if you haven't wondered already. Zavin is a Skrull who whose parents entered an alliance with her parents years and years ago to marry the two of them together, and they get the Runaways get into a bit of a scrap with Zavin, and he's like, "What the hell? I thought we were gonna get married and like save our 2 planets." So she's like, "What the fuck? No!" But also, like, you're a guy, and he's like, I'm a Skrull. Changing her gender is just like, well, I'll show you. And then he transforms into a fucking green bombshell. In fact, not even green. In fact, actually, Zavin also makes herself, technically, look a lot more... It's not confirmed whether Skrulls actually change their gender or if they're gender neutral, but there you go. There's an Empress of the Skrulls, actually, so maybe it's the former. But, she transforms into a slightly more human-looking version of herself. And this version is a person of colour.
Nice.
So we've got hot, ethnically ambiguous, but still definitely not white, lesbian alien, well, presumably omnisexual alien, maybe, or pansexual, I don't know, again, not confirmed, who is very much into Karolina, a gay alien, grew up on Earth, who can transform into a literal rainbow. And they go off into space to get married and solve the war between their 2 planets, which does not go well. They return to Earth, but Zavin comes with her and become parts of the team, and they continue their relationship. And it's great, and they're actually really affectionate with each other, despite the fact that one of them's a Skrull, and they, technically tried to invade the Earth that one time and caused a lot of problems.
Yeah, you ignore that for gay.
And it's just... I thought that was such a cool relationship. Perhaps not as cool as the Moondragon thing, but it's a bit more in the public eye, as it were. It's the new TV show.
Oh, yeah, definitely now. Yeah, Karolina, and I think it's Nico,
yes. I mean, here's the thing. I know... I'm given to understand they have a bit of a thing in the show. In the comics, they nearly have a thing, but Nico is actually...
I've definitely seen panels recently of them making out.
But at least in the early issues,
right.
There was a thing, but Nico was like not really into it. Like, I love you, Karolina, just not in that way. Nico has her own issues, and maybe she explored that later on. I'm glad these characters, after Runaways, became a bit more present in the Marvel Universe. But yeah, I just loved Runaways when it was first out, and it was so good. Brian K. Vaughan did a lot of it. And I love Brian K. Vaughan when he's not doing Saga. Fuck you, I don't like Saga. Fight me. Yeah. and she's just kind of great. I think she's a good, comfortable spot for number 3. What's your pick for number 3?
I had to put her somewhere. She's my favorite character of all time and anything ever. Is Catwoman.
And she's not number 1?
No, because she's not as prevalent as my number 1.
Okay.
I was thinking about this based on prevalent. She's not number 1. Selena Kyle, Catwoman, was confirmed by as recently as the end of her New 52 run, because New 52 ended and now we're in Rebirth.
Of course we fucking are, because it's been 5 minutes since the last reboot for DC. Why not?
I mean, this was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that Rebirth started. But now we have the Tom King run, which I have some feelings about.
Bad feelings?
Bad feelings. I like the idea of her and Bruce being together. That's like my favorite. He writes them horribly. They call each other Bat and Cat the entire time, which is annoying as hell. She says meow like every 5 goddamn seconds.
Like morning Bat, morning Cat,
yeah.
Meow.
Oh yeah, like
when you say meow when she says something like that in the comics, even if it's just randomly, it always makes me think of that Colin Mockery line from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
She is meow. Oh, Heidi, 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 Heidi.
I had a conversation yesterday with David on Twitter. I said, if I see one more panel with Selena Kyle saying meow, I'm going to strangle someone, preferably Tom King. And he responded with, well, you should probably avoid Batman Returns then, which I have some issues with Batman Returns, like, as a movie. But, like, in general, it's, like, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. Like the number 1 scene of her saying meow is right before Lynn explodes behind her. It's supposed to be a joke of like she's like, oh, I'm so innocent.
Because when it's used sparingly, it's fine. But if it's like, as you say, every other issue or every other panel, it's just.
Heroes in Crisis is like the most egregious version of it because she's not in it that much. There's like if you've seen any panels from it, you've probably seen like the 1 panel therapy sessions of like. There's therapy sessions with registered JLA members, and she's one of them now. And the only thing she says in her panel is meow, and I hate it.
Just
and
like,
I'm sick of it.
You know what, Catwoman? Unless you get to seriously, there's no point in you being here.
Right, and I back to her sexuality. Like, it is something that I have suspected as a Catwoman fan for a very long time because she is so heavily tied to the, femme fatale trope. She's one of, the first major femme fatales in comic books. She was introduced 75 years ago or 76, I think now, in the same issue that Joker was introduced. So when we got all of those Joker variant covers, we should have gotten Catwoman variant covers.
Yeah.
But she's so heavily tied to that, and in the femme fatale trope typically is tied to bisexuality because like they're bad girls who are sexually ambiguous, and of course that's a huge stereotype against bi people. But Selena has consistently been the one character who kind of breaks the mold of all the femme fatale characters. She beats Batman all the time. She wins when especially in a time
has
where
he ever won a fight against her ever?
I think physically, yeah. I think like he's arrested her a few times, but like she consistently outwits him, outsmarts him, like flirts with him until he's so flustered he can't do anything about it. She wins in a time where the only 2 resolutions for femme fatales were death or imprisonment, and she got neither of those for decades.
Oh man, I'm so flustered right now. I don't
Oh,
know what
yeah.
to think. I literally have never done anything with a woman ever because I'm so traumatically involved.
She like in every adaptation, every Batman adaptation, there's always like at least one episode or two episodes of or a whole movie of Bruce completely ignoring everything he has ever known for her. And she is consistently
Master Bruce, you're letting the bank robbers get away. No, Alfred. I think I just saw Catwoman.
Yeah, I need to go over there. She is
Oh my god, I hope she brought the whip.
she's the best part of literally every adaptation she is in. Like, I don't like Batman Returns that much because it invented cat powers, but Michelle Pfeiffer is the best part of that movie. Dark Knight Rises
It's very ambiguous with the cat powers. Unlike
Oh.
the Catwoman movie.
That's because there was still a contract where Michelle Pfeiffer was the only person who could play Selena Kyle. And that's not a great movie, but she is one of the best things of that trilogy. She is the fake out of the very beginning of that movie is iconic. I will never be able to get that out of my head. She's one of my favorite versions of Catwoman. Cameron Bikanadova in Gotham she consistently was the best character on that show. Like everything she's been in, her episodes in Batman the Animated Series, amazing. She is like, there is so hard to get.
The Arkham games.
The Arkham games. If you aren't playing Arkham City with the Catwoman DLC, you're not playing that game.
I mean, there's lots of different versions of the characters to say. For me personally, the ultimate iconic version of the character will always be Grey Delisle.
She's so good.
Or
and
Grey Griffin,
she
whatever.
in Lego DC Supervillains, which is great. And I actually really also like, and I need to play the second one, but she's also, Laura Bailey does a great job in Telltale Batman.
Oh, yeah.
That is actually like an underrated, like really good story. Is the first Telltale Batman.
I played the first episode of that just because it was released for free, and I refused to pay money for anything DC. But it was very good.
It goes places that you wouldn't like you always there's hints at the beginning that like, oh, is Thomas Wayne actually a bad guy? No, he's Thomas Wayne. They go in a completely different direction that you wouldn't expect. Like
Bruce Wayne and Penguin were friends?
Right, yeah, like Selena figures it out like immediately. Like she figures out that Bruce is Batman like right off the bat. Like literally right off the bat.
Wait, how did you know that I'm Batman? You're still using the voice. Oh crap.
Yeah, I think she fights with him one night, and the next night she meets him and he has that scar, and that's how she figures it out, or something like that. Yeah. And
I guess that makes me the best detective in the world. No, I'm the best detective in the world because I've got the bad computer. Well, I've got a cat computer. Really? Yeah, it's called an iPhone.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up using the Batman voice for Catwoman for a second there. God damn it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I love her. She is my favorite character in anything ever of all time forever. It's hard to do her wrong, though several male writers have done her wrong. The beginning of the New 52 run is garbage.
We all knew that. That goes without saying.
I haven't read the second half where she's actually confirmed as bi. But ironically, in that picture that everyone shares around of her kissing a woman, she's not in the Catwoman suit.
Oh.
The woman in the Catwoman suit is her girlfriend.
Oh, okay. Playing a bit of dress-up, are we?
Yeah, every Catwoman, which there's been 3 now, including that woman, has been queer. Selena is bi. Holly Robinson, who is a great character that Tom King ruined, is a lesbian, and she was Catwoman when that brief time that Selena was pregnant. And now this woman, who I think her name is Yuri, she's Japanese.
Ah.
I
see what they did there.
Yeah, but she, I think the whole thing with that is that Selena became a mob boss and stopped being Catwoman, and then she kind of got into it with the new Catwoman, who was the daughter of a rival mob. But I want to see more like. I want Sirens to get back together. I think this is a perfect time to bring back Gotham City Sirens. They've been confirmed queer since that series. And I think this is the perfect time. Selena is, I love the Joelle Jones run, but I would love to see her write Sirens. Like, she is just off this major relationship
let her get wild with her friends.
Girls' night out. Woo! Right.
We'll all just find random women to sleep with. It's great.
And then we're going to move on now to number 2. We're in the home stretch. And now I really debated who to put in this. I got into a crisis over who to put this out. So rather than me picking, I'm just going to let you go first.
Okay.
Switch it up for the last 2.
Right. The only reason why she's not number 1 is because she's not iconic for being queer. She's iconic for existing, and it's Wonder Woman. Diana was, I think, word of God, but I also think it's appeared in the comics a few times where she's mentioned that she's bisexual. And it happened only shortly before, I think it was like after they had finished filming the movie, which is why Patty Jenkins put out a statement that she was like, oh man, I wish I had known this before because I would have put it in the movie.
Oh, hey, the sequel's coming out, Yeah,
come on. I mean, she still seems a little bit hung up on Steve, but let's do this.
Maybe she'll find comfort in the arms of another. Maybe a Linda Carter lookalike.
Amber Heard has been pushing for a Wonder Woman Mira movie, and I want it so bad. I didn't really think that they had a lot of chemistry in Aquaman, but a prequel where they've because I mean Mira's old as hell. She's an Atlantean.
Yeah.
A prequel where they know each other and they're they dated briefly. I want that. I want that in my life. I want a Mira and I want a Wonder Mira.
I want it that way. Tell me why we want Wonder Woman and Mira. Tell me why.
Because they're great.
Yes.
And they're beautiful and they're bisexual. Well, maybe not Mira in the mainstream other than Bombshells, but she'll do it. Amber Heard would do it in a heartbeat. She's bi. And Gal Gadot has said several times, she loves kissing women on screen. She says it's her favorite thing to do.
Fucking Mediterranean goddess that she is. Of course she does.
Oh yeah, she there's a movie that she's in with Isla Fisher.
Oh yeah,
where she kisses her, and that she's that was fun, and it was a mistranslation, but she said at some point she had a sleepover with Amy Adams, and she said that she slept with her. And Amy was like, no, we had a sleepover.
I'm just imagining her accidentally getting all these women hot and bothered without realizing it. She's kissing Isla Fisher in that movie, then she breaks it off and just okay, so that's a cut. I think that was pretty cool. That was a lot of fun. How do you feel, Isla?
Absolutely. There's a video that came out, I think right before Justice League, on the DC YouTube channel or something, where Amber Heard goes down her list of favorite DC women. All of them are queer in different adaptations. And when she gets to Wonder Woman, she's bisexual and her sexuality is always respected, as it should be.
Yeah. I mean, she grew up on an island full of women that's heavily influenced by ancient Greece. It would be weird if she wasn't gay.
There's a comic, and I don't like the art, but she is what's it called? She's ordained and she marries a gay couple in Metropolis or something.
That is the biggest brag you could ever have for your wedding. Oh, we had a chocolate fountain. Oh, we had a horse-drawn carriage. We were married by fucking Wonder Woman. Go in the corner.
Right. And I think she meets up with Clark at some point, and he's just well, it's kind of cool that you're doing this for a gay couple. And she's on my island, it's just called marriage. It's not called gay marriage. That's dumb.
Which is awesome. Fucking awesome. As much as I hate DC, when they get it right, they really do get it right. It's just they get it right so rarely.
I feel there's a hot and cold with DC. There's very rarely any mediocre kind of just okay kind of things, and I think that's Gotham kind of fits into that, and the CW shows kind of fit into that sometimes, but I think widely people are just those are bad. But when they really get it, it's fucking Doom Patrol is just out of this world. That Wonder Woman is just fantastic. They when they get it, they really get it.
Well, I was really hoping you'd pick one of mine, but unfortunately you didn't. Wonder Woman wasn't even on my list. So I'm going to have to pick someone to go on my second spot, because I got 3 people that could fit in here, and I don't know who to pick, so I'm just...
My number 1 is probably one of those 3. I'm going to say that.
Possibly, so I'm just going to have to go for it. My number 2 pick is going to be the Yellow Ranger from the Power Rangers movie.
Okay.
Now, because the reason why I put it in, now when this movie came out, I kind of criticized it for not being explicit in calling her gay, and I want to backtrack that a little bit, because I think you should be explicit in saying whether a character's gay or not. But here's the thing: there's a lot of people, again, particularly teenagers, who are questioning their sexuality. They don't know. They're trying to figure it out. And she definitely fits into the mold of she's questioning herself. She's questioning sexuality. And there's a lot of people out there who are very quick to identify other people for them. A lot of other people who are quick to say, you should figure out your own identity. Like, do it now. And some people want to take a bit of time to figure it out, and maybe there isn't even a word. Like, we know so much more about sexuality and gender than we do in the last, say, 5 years than we have in the last 50. In my opinion, right. I'm probably wrong with that, but still, at least I've learned that much in the last 5 years. And yeah, it's still possible that there could be other gender identities and sexualities out there that we don't know about now, that people are very much are, and that is their identity, but they don't have a word for it yet. And she's fits into that role of just figuring things out. And I do have to give credit to that movie, for which we have yet to see any hint of a sequel as far as I'm aware.
It did not do well at the box office.
It was a very good movie, if I'm being honest. And it's just... I think she portrayed that sort of role very well. She didn't overplay it. It wasn't underplayed. It was very much a thing about her.
Isn't that Jasmine? Or is it the
That's the
different
Pink
girl?
Ranger.
Because I know Jasmine's in this movie.
That's the Pink Ranger. Don't fucking talk to me about that. It's still too raw in my mind.
I listened. I heard.
You know. You fucking know. And so, yeah, this is a different actor, and yeah, I just think it was also kind of cool because they changed up some of the ethnicities of some of the actors, even though they kept the same names. But she was one of the few ones that remained Asian, because the main actor was Asian, and now she's still Asian, but now she's got this other thing about her. And it's kind of cool, and it shows her family life and how she might not entirely be willing to come out just yet and still needs to figure these things out. And maybe it's not the best family to be figuring things out in. Not necessarily a bad family, but still. And it was like almost like a secret, not so secret by the end of it, thing about her that she's just kind of like, it's the beginning of something. You know, it's the beginning of something. She doesn't know quite what it is yet. But she's going to, and she's just going to go on her journey, her own path, as we all are, and she's going to figure it out with a little time and support from her friends, which she definitely has. And I think that's great.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think the reason I got them confused is because a lot of the people that I'm friends with online ship the hell out of the Pink Ranger and the Yellow Ranger. So I get them confused all the time because I see them in so many things together.
Fair enough. Why wouldn't you? But you should be aware, too much pink energy is dangerous. That's all I think. We're going to move on now to the final stretch. We've been on this long enough. Number 1! And we're going to keep the switch. So, Alex, what's your pick for number 1?
DC's most iconic lesbian, Batwoman. Kate Kane is... she's getting her own show. I haven't watched the episode she's in. I'm not a huge fan of Ruby Rose as an actress.
Have you?
I think as an action star, maybe.
Have you seen the trailer?
I have.
Now, what did you think of the trailer? Because I've seen a lot of reactions to the trailer, and the consensus has generally been very cringy.
It looks like a CW show.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Like, it very much is a CW show. Maybe I'll watch a few episodes, but I didn't like Supergirl. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this. But Kate Kane in general is just, she is far and away, like, she was created to be a love interest for Batman and became his cousin and a lesbian. Like that is such a 180 as a character. But like she's probably one of the first lesbian characters, like major lesbian characters in comics. She was one of the big things about her character was that she was kicked out of the military for being gay. She's don't ask, don't tell. And like I appreciate the actual show and the trailer. They seem to be acknowledging that. That she was kicked out of the military. Which is huge. Like it's in this country
relevant.
that is so pro-military all the goddamn time. The fact that this major hero character.
Can I say, as a smaller side, I don't mean to belittle anyone's career or anyone who has served in your country, but I will say, coming from a military family myself, it's the Royal Air Force, so it's a bit different, but still, the way you guys, and I am not afraid of using this word, fetishize your service people and your armed forces, to me is kind of insane, bordering on like the way they fetishize the military in like North Korea and places like that. It's not that bad, but it's in a similar vein. It's actually kind of strange the way you guys do that. And
both my grandfather, one of my grandfathers was a Marine, the other one was an Army doctor. Like I've been, I mean, I haven't been like the direct descendant of a military family because neither of my parents did that, but like my grandparents, like they've talked to me, but like they don't do that. They think it's dumb. Like they appreciate when, you know, people are like, you know, thank you for your service or whatever, but they don't, you know, flaunt it all the time. It's not like a major deal.
And there's a big thing with like using patriotism and using the armed forces to further political ideology. They're very much used as pawns by a lot of politicians and a lot of groups and lots of special interest groups and stuff like that. And I find that fucking disgusting.
Oh yeah, my dad's father, my paternal grandfather, the Marine, he joined the Marines because he was scared of living in the Bronx. Like he wanted to.
War the Bronx. I pick war.
Yeah, like he and he was able to use that to, you know, move his family out of New York. And my dad, you know, bounced around all the time, and then my grandfather ended up being like part of the State Department. Like, so it was good overall, but it's still like he didn't join it because he wanted to. He joined it out of necessity. Like, it's something that like that's not acknowledged. And I think that I think that
I'm a second generation what we call scaly brat over here. My grandfather was in the RAF, as was my grandmother, the female equivalent. That's how they met. They had my mum, who joined. I mean, she was trained to be a teacher, but I think she joined partly to support herself and partly because, you know, it's the family thing. And that's how she met my dad, who joined. He had a few jobs beforehand, but it was mainly like a steady job because, you know, he's a working class guy from Kent who left school at age 16. So the armed forces are a very good entry point for him. And bear in mind, I would want to say all of them were officers, so it's not quite the same as, say, enlisting. But it wasn't it was all of them, as far as I'm aware. It wasn't done out of patriotism. It was done out of either necessity or they just thought they'd be good at it. Although, I mean, my dad did serve during the Falklands War. He was part of flight crews that flew over there. Never saw combat, but still. And so I never like fetishizing people. I never like doing that. But just because I made a big deal about like how a lot of people fetishize like genius people with genius level intellect. Shows like The Big Bang Theory and that show Scorpion a while back. Really just try and idolize or demonize these people in some ways, and I just find that kind of stupid because at the end of the day, these people, whether they be geniuses or genii, I don't know how you say it, or service people or whoever, are just people. And some of them join up for patriotism, to defend their country they love, or it's part of the family thing. And there's a multitude of reasons, both good and bad. Not every soldier is a saint, not every soldier is a sinner. And this shouldn't be used for political ideology. Should be kept very much out of that. And kept out.
I think that this, like, Batwoman having that background is an important story to tell. Like, it's something that is not seen that often. Like, you would think that something like that was so prevalent in American politics for so long that there would be more stories including it, but really the only one that I can think of is her.
Yeah.
And not only that, but she's also probably DC's most prominent Jewish character. She explicitly says a lot that she's Jewish, and she says it's from her mother's side, which is Bruce's aunt. Meaning that Bruce is also Jewish. He's just not as
lapsed.
He's really not as religious as she is, and she is explicitly religious. Like, that's why she is one of the main. I mean, obviously because you need the Trinity, but like, she's also one of the main characters in Bombshells is because she's Jewish, and she finds out that like Nazis have infiltrated Gotham, and she's
Nazis have already infiltrated your country, basically, mine too. So
absolutely,
that's not the weirdest thing in the DC universe.
Yeah, she is great. I don't think because they cast Ruby Rose, they're definitely going on the military angle. I highly doubt they're going to go towards the Jewish angle, which sucks because there needs to be more like explicit Jewish representation. That I think that that is not just about like talking about the Holocaust for forever.
It doesn't have to be from
being a
It
stereotype.
doesn't have to be from a historical context. It doesn't even have to be from a religious context. It just has to be maybe from a cultural context.
Right, absolutely. I think that's important
because
for her.
Because you don't have to be explicitly part of a religion to have it influence your identity. Because I could honestly say I am, culturally speaking, Church of England, even though I have not been part of the Church of England for a long, long time. I identify as an atheist now, but that was part of my upbringing. Even though I was never raised in a religious household, the last primary school I went to multiple primary schools, was a Church of England primary school, and we had the hymns and we had the prayers and stuff. And so, like, the whole idea of, like, well, actually, there's not a lot to the Church of England religion, I'll be honest. It's very light. Like, we know just a bit about the Harvest Festival and shit, and that's it. You know, there's not much to it, but it informs part of my cultural identity in a certain way. And it's the same with any other religion. You don't have to be, you don't have to read the Quran or pray to Allah to be culturally Muslim. You don't, there's many more examples, you know?
Yeah, and I think that like,
and even doing it by a religious standard still wouldn't be a bad thing. So,
yeah, and Jewish identity is so closely tied to not just religion. It is an identity. It is in the same way it's similar to an ethnicity and a race. Like it's something that is so important as being in your blood and that it's important to have those characters that I don't know. It's that
representation.
It needs to be represented.
That's what this whole list is about. It's about
she would be the perfect character to really bring that representation to the forefront, and it doesn't seem like they're doing that. In the show, which sucks. Especially since like once they cast Ruby Rose, who is just kind of everyone's go-to lesbian. I think the criticism, like the reason why she left Twitter, like was because people were apparently telling her she's not lesbian enough, which is dumb.
Off.
My gripe with her is that she's not Jewish, and she really is just kind of when a straight person is thinking of a lesbian actor, they think of Ruby Rose. Like she is the first person everyone goes to. Like there's really no, like they really didn't dig that far deep when it came for this character.
Yeah, which is not to say that she can't do a good job or she can't represent it very well. But that is partially her performance. It's also the writing. And let's be honest, when it comes to representation in terms of what they prioritize and what they don't, it's often the writers and the showrunners who drop the ball. Which leads me to my one pick. Now, I probably will mention people I thought about putting in this list later on, just like an honorable mention. But for now, I want to focus on something because we touched on this briefly before, but it's one thing to introduce a character and have them be gay. It's another thing to retroactively say that a character has in fact been gay this whole time. And there's a big deal with like the Negative Man, that happening, but something that happened in the comics and has had a big impact and actually been explored, I think, very maturely, very interestingly, and very creatively, is everyone's favourite ice-making mutant, Bobby Drake Iceman.
Right,
Because here's
yeah.
the thing, we always thought that Bobby Drake was straight. He had girlfriends and stuff. Wait, no, apparently some of them were just like people he tried to get with, but he didn't feel it, and others of them were just basically beards. And he is 100% gay. And this became so much part of his identity to the point where they made a mini-series about him, which I have read, about him, this superhero, but also exploring his identity as a gay man and coming to terms with that, coming to grips with that, and working on either maintaining, establishing, or possibly even fixing previous relationships we've had with lots of people, including his fellow superheroes, his fellow X-Men and mutants, certain antagonists of his, Dakin, and that's a whole thing entirely, and his own parents. And it's very... his relationship with the parents is so interesting because it's clear that they want to be supportive of him, but they can't quite express it. They don't know how to express it. There's a bit of disapproval in there, but they know their son is a good person. They're not bigots, but they are definitely prejudiced. But here's the thing. What's funny is they're way more prejudiced of him being a mutant than anything else. like, in fairness, like, during the course of the miniseries, or the series, their house does get destroyed due to a supervillain attack or something like that. So, like, you understand why they do, but it's still definitely a prejudice. And you can tell there's a lot of conflicting emotions, and for a long time, he's struggling to tell him. He wants to tell him, but doesn't quite know how. When he eventually does tell him, it does not go well. The whole thing does not go well. It's not a Wiccan and Hulkling scenario at all. Mainly because he's a lot older than them, and his parents are a lot older, and there's lots of bad blood going on there between them. But there is hope. And there is a lot of... There's a point in the series where they do get to a pretty good place. And also it's him exploring relationships with guys. And him really enjoying that. Maybe not enjoying other aspects of it. As much as any other relationship with anyone who identifies anything else would, you know? But also there's, again... The whole him being a superhero thing is always at the forefront. Because him jetting off around the country is not easy to maintain a relationship when he's doing that. There's even the best bit of the season, the miniseries, I think, is when he has a sort of reunion with possibly the most failingest of any superhero team ever, the Champions. They have a reunion, they get together back in LA, and him revealing that he's gay to them, and there's various reactions, but all of which are positive. And there's just scenes with him, like, dancing with men in a nightclub, and him actually feeling kind of at peace. Because even before we knew he was gay, the character of Bobby Drake was always kind of reserved and awkward, and sometimes he would be a bit like, hey, I'm a cool kind of dude. But there was always something a little bit forced about it in my opinion. Maybe it's just, like, my knowledge of his identity now reinforming or retroactively changing my perception of him throughout... ever since its inception in the 1960s. But maybe it's a testament to the writers actually picking the right character to reveal as gay, because it kind of makes sense this whole time. And even though it's not the most smooth journeys in terms of him accepting his identity and on the road to being a gay man, it's still a very beautiful one in my opinion. And I think it's also representative. Obviously, no one in real life has superpowers, but it's representative of a lot of people's... Because, here's the thing. We talked about a lot of different people on this list, and that's because there's lots of different kinds of gay people. There's lots of different kinds of people in the LGBTQIA plus community. And not just in terms of their personal sexual or gender identity, but in terms of their lives in general, their backgrounds. The life of a gay person in the Upper West Side of New York City is not going to be the same as the life of a gay person in Alabama right now. Fundamentally different. And I think the Iceman series and that revelation of Iceman really helped drive that home about how his life is very different from a lot of other gay people, and that's brought up in the series quite a bit. And the same with all of these things, all these different characters that we talked about are wonderfully and beautifully unique, and their stories are different partially because of their sexuality and gender identity, but not just because of it. And that's why these are the best of the best, because there are plenty of bad LGBTQIA plus superheroes, supervillains, anti-heroes, or just general comic book characters who are not well represented. who are terribly written, who either focus way too much on their sexuality or not enough. And it's a tricky balance. And that's partially due to people being ignorant, partially because people don't care, partially because people want to demonize or represent in a poor way on purpose. But thankfully, we live in a world with people who either who are allies and who want to represent that community as best as they can, or people who are actually part of that community who have struggled and fought and are now in a position where they can write characters and create characters and create stories that do properly represent these characters. And there's still a lot of work to be done. We must never be lax. We must never let things slide. But we're getting to a pretty good place now. And
there's a comic that I want to mention that came out. DC released it a few months after the Orlando Pulse shooting, called Love is Love, where it was an anthology of comics with both DC characters and just random, short pieces of like poetry and pieces with different people that aren't from the DC universe, and it was all to benefit Pulse survivors. If you can get your hands on that, absolutely do it. It is beautiful. There's some comedy bits in it. There's one, I think, written by an SNL guy where Deathstroke throws away all of his guns because he sees the news. There's a really great one where like Midnighter, Apollo, Batwoman, Harley, they all meet up at a gay bar. There's one where like Batman's investigating the shooting and he's like, how the fuck did this happen? And it is really a beautiful piece of work. And I have like a digital copy of it, and it like fucking gets me every single time that I read it. And I think if you can still find like an original copy of it, I think they're still donating money. When it was first released, they raised $165,000, something like that.
Which is great.
So,
and it's very broad Batman, because there's been some talk recently of putting like allies into the LGBTQIA plus thing, as it were, which I think is stupid.
Yeah, nope.
Because you don't need to be part of a community to support that community. And I think it's great, because as great as it is to put people from that community in your films, in your comics, in whatever, it's also important to have characters that are not part of that community who support and are okay. And like, as much as I dislike that character, I know that Superman would always support a gay couple or people in crisis and would always save them. Captain America, I know, has done that in the past, despite the fact that he's from the 1940s. Like, he's okay with that. And it's important because these stories resonate with people. And because not just for people who are part of these communities, again, but for people who aren't. Because I have learned a lot from reading comics about these sort of things. The characters I wanted to include in both the second spot and the first spot were Richter and Shatterstar from Peter David's run on X Factor. And that whole series in general is brilliant because Peter David has been very outspoken and very prominent and has received an award for doing that sort of thing. And it's great because, I mean, to be gay or trans or bisexual or whatever is normal. But there's a lot of people out there that don't think that way or don't know that that's what it is. And so when you put characters like this and you represent them properly in your stories, it does, and I hate using this word, but it's apt, normalize them. And it makes them present in people's lives when they might not have been before. And it makes us just a bit more aware. I've learned a lot because of that. Because, fuck it, the British education system isn't going to teach me shit about that. So, it helps.
One of my honorable mentions was Jericho. The only reason why he didn't make it on the list is because no one really gives a shit about Jericho. But he's going to be in Titans next season, and he's being played by a trans actor who I think uses pronouns. And Jericho's been gay for a very long time. So having that, like that character being made more queer, is great. And also he's actually like being played by a deaf actor. Like he typically hasn't been actually deaf. His just vocal cords got smashed and he doesn't talk, but now he is actually being playing by a deaf actor. Which is
I mean, here's the thing. X-Men started as a allegory of the civil rights movement from the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, it's become an allegory for the civil rights movement of today with this community. And I think because any oppressed or victimized minority, or indeed any minority, can sort of, and this is it's a slippery slope, but it can be analogous to anyone else. And it's the question of when we represent someone right, when we represent someone properly, and they're portrayed by someone or written by someone who fucking knows what they're talking about and who is part of that community and represent it helps everyone. There is it's not on the list because I don't know a lot about this character, and you presumably aren't keeping up with Supergirl. Apparently there is a trans actor who's playing a trans superhero who's specifically stated as trans in the Supergirl show.
I don't think she's one of the characters they made up for the show. I think her name's like Nile or Neil Navor or something like that. She's an alien too.
Everyone's an alien on that show.
Yeah, everyone's an alien.
but you know what? There's gay people in space too.
Yeah.
You know? There's gay people throughout all of space and time. We pretend like these are just a community that's just popped up in the last 50 years or so. They've been around forever. Since humanity existed, it's always been a thing. It's never not been a thing.
Definitely.
So it's thanks to Iceman and Northstar and Danny the Street and Batwoman and Catwoman and Negative Man and Xena and fucking motherfucking the OG Willow and motherfucking Tara that help remind us of the world we truly live in rather than the world that some people pretend we live in.
Yeah.
And I think on that note, happy Pride Month. We're going to end the show. Thank you very much, Alex, for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem. This is great.
I'm very glad we got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And my sign-off script has gone off for a second. Hang on. Don't include this. Edit this out. Edit this out. There we go. And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends. Shout it from the rooftops! And if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes. Like, I don't think I think we did ages and ages ago with Dara Burke. We did like a top 10 best female superheroes way back when we were baby PodCapers, so do that. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, or at PodCapers.com. We have a Patreon. Check out the rewards. Patreon.com/AP2HYC. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC, or email us at podcapers@ap2hyc.com. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone, the red and blue 3D glasses. Those are mine. And thank you for listening. This has been PodCapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!